I'm working as a consultant in the Center of IVF at Sir Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi, performing about 1,200 fresh IVF cycles in a year. I've been given a very, very small subtopic, oral contraceptives, pre-treatment. Is there any role in poor responders, its advantages and disadvantages? I think when we are talking, I think Dr. Kaveri has started the ball rolling by saying poor responders, we know that we are always stuck. We don't know what to tell them. When they come with failures, they come to your OPD and it's like a small jargon. You kind of mentally make up your mind what to tell them, what regime to give them DHEA, androgen pad, gels, reduce the dose, what to do, and you keep, it's like a jargon going on. So the management of poor responders with diminished ovarian reserve is still a challenge. There have been many studies assessing various control ovarian stimulation regimes to improve the outcome in these poor responders. However, till date, no particular protocol has been demonstrated to be best suited, and that is why we still keep on trying different regimes. So among all the treatments which have been proposed, what I'm supposed to talk about is about OC pre-treatment, and it is one of the treatment which is considered as a possible option to improve the ovarian response in these women. Now, the whole concept starts with that hypothalamic pituitary suppression in IVF patients can be achieved with the help of OC pills, or parallel could be use of just progestins, or it could be just estrogens alone. The whole aim is that if we are able to suppress the early FSH and LH rise in the previous luteal cycle, we can actually synchronize the follicles and expect a better cohort to come up when we start the gonadotropins for these women. Now, this is a whole list of treatments. There could be much more. There could be combinations of these treatments. What I would be focusing is only about OC pill pre-treatment. Now, the first use of OC pill which we actually came in was for easy cycle scheduling, so which we all are aware about it. Second important role of OC pill was that it prevents an endogenous LH surge in the previous cycle as effectively as a GnRH agonist, and thereby overcoming persistence of a corpus luteal activity and prevents early follicular rise of progesterones and androgens. Now, this concept has been used in many clinics, though personally in my clinic we just add a progesterone along with GnRH agonist, and we do not really treat these women with OC pills. Now, when we talk of poor response, what we are looking at is that OC pre-treatment would achieve a lighter ovarian suppression and could synchronize the follicular development, leading to a better ovarian response. And this is what we are looking at. I think even an increment of one oocyte increases the pregnancy rate. Every lab will have their own cutoff. Like in my lab, if there are 3 and less than 3 number of oocytes, our pregnancy rate drops to less than 10%. So this follicular synchronization would be beneficial for poor responder patients, and this is what we are trying to achieve. Now, how the OC pill treatment is given, it's not a rocket science. Most of the studies have used 3 regimes. Either an OC pre-treatment was given when we used a GnRH agonist micro-dose flare protocol. So the GnRH agonist was started from day 2, day 3 of the cycle, starting right when the gonadotropin stimulation was started. Or OC pre-treatment was given when we are looking at a GnRH antagonist cycle. And number 3, now we are looking at a very, very minimal stimulation where we are trying to use just clomiphene citrate, and we don't want a persistent corpus luteal activity, and that is where the clomiphene OC pre-treatment was administered. Now, in both the first regimes, most of the authors did was that they started the ovarian stimulation after 5 days of the last OC pill. So irrespective of the periods, most of the women had their cycles. So basically it coincided with either day 2 or day 3 of cycle, or even if they had not started, but they started. The reason was that they didn't want the ill effect of the OC pills to remain, and they also wanted the whole cohort to come up. They didn't want the negative feedback mechanism to escape. So these are the questions what I could possibly think of in this OC pre-treatment, which I think we need to address. That what would happen when we give OC pre-treatment? Will it adequately suppress the FSH and LH levels? And what would happen to the functional ovarian reserve if we give it on a long term? What would be the requirement of gonadotropins in these cycles? What would be the follicular recruitment, oocyte recovery? And the most important is, no matter what you give, what is the bottom line is the implantation and the pregnancy outcome. So even if we have 1 oocyte extra and the pregnancy rate remains the same, then I think it is really no justification to start a new regime. So let's go to the first one that I will just collectively present a compilation of data which have been done on these different aspects. Let's start with the adequate suppression of FSH and LH. This was a study which actually compared FSH flare with and without pre-treatment with OC pill. The bottom line which I have highlighted was that OC pre-treatment in GnRH agonist flare protocol suppressed the pre-GnRH agonist FSH. It did not but blunt the FSH flare after the agonist was started. Most important was that it blunted the LH response, and this is what we need. We don't want a very early LH rise during the stimulation period when we are starting these poor women on gonadotropins, because they would take a longer time to get stimulated. This was a very recent study in 2012 which was published, who tried to assess that what happened to the functional ovarian reserve in women who were given OC pre-treatment. What they concluded was that prolonged use of OC pill over 2 months suppressed the pituitary gonadotropin and the antral follicle development beyond 6 weeks, but had no effect on the serum AMH levels and the number of small antral follicle. But what it has been suggested is that when we are looking at giving OC pill to these women, it is a very short-term OC pill use, that is a 21-day OC pill use. We are not looking at a 2 or 3 month suppression, because here we just want to synchronize the follicles in these women. And we all know that OC pills on a prolonged use will suppress your HPO axis tremendously, and the dose of gonadotropins would be tremendously high when we start stimulating these women. Now let's look at some study, one study which said what happened to the requirement of gonadotropin. This was again published very recently in 2011. I think I'll go to the gist what I have made. What basically they did was they selected 120 poor responders and they divided into 3 groups. The first 2 groups actually was an antagonist multiple dose protocol, but the first group got a OC pre-treatment, the second did not get an OC pre-treatment, and they compared it with a standard long protocol but using a smaller dose of GnRH agonist. The conclusion of the study was that in group 1, it required lesser dose of gonadotropin as compared to the standard agonist group, even though they had used a lower dose of agonist with comparable pregnancy rate. Out of the 3 groups, what really did poorly was a group where antagonist multiple dose was used starting from 14 millimeter follicle and who did not receive an OC pre-treatment. They had less number of mature oocytes and good grades. However, the pregnancy rate in all the 3 groups was comparable. So that is what is more important, I think, whether we use OC pill or we don't use OC pill. Now, there are studies which are coming up which are comparing, as again how Dr. Kaveri has suggested, that this topic again has underpowered studies, less number of patients, less number of randomized controlled trials. So we have to depend upon all the available data and the small number of patients which have been recruited in different studies. So let's see what happened when OC pill was compared to only estrogen priming. That is, when we start estrogen. This was a study which again published in 2011. This compared it in young poor responders who were less than 35 years of age. How the estrogen was given, they used a patch which was started about 10 days after the start of the LH surge. They changed it every other day, and on day 2 of the cycle, the last patch was put and the patient was asked to keep the patch on till the time either it naturally fell off or till the day of HCG. Now, since in India we do not have this patch available, what we depend on is oral estrogens, and we'll end up giving 2 milligrams twice daily, starting say 8 to 10 days after the LH surge, and we give it till day 2 of periods. Usually in the study what we are doing right now, we do not give it beyond that. Now, the conclusion in this study was that estrogens within an antagonist cycle showed a better implantation rate, that is 30% as compared to 20%, and a better pregnancy rate, 37% versus 25% in young poor responders when they compared it with a group who used a OC pre-treatment. So this was the conclusion, and I'll tell you later that what authors believe that what happens when we give OC pill. Now, I've collectively taken all the 3 groups, the follicular recruitment, the oocyte recovery, and the implantation and pregnancy rate. Study published in 2000. does pre-treatment, whether you talk about progesterone, you talk about OC pills, in low responders in a GnRH FLAIR protocol, we just look at the conclusion that they concluded that pre-IVF treatment with OC contraceptive pills or a gestogen combined with the FLAIR protocol in women high risk with or without or with a history of poor response did not appear to result in an improvement in outcome of IVF. So what is the concerns? Concerns with OC pill is that the moment there is ovarian suppression, now this happens more profoundly with OC pills because it is proposed that it would, number one, reduce the androstenedione level and it will increase the SHBG. So what we are looking at is that transiently the substrate, the androgens would be lower as compared to women who have not been treated with OC pill. So if this actually happens, then the woman is expected to require longer duration of ovarian stimulation, and this longer duration of OC pill might eventually decrease the ovarian volume. So here we are trying to improve the cohort on one hand, but on the other hand what we are doing is we are making them more poorer in terms of the days and duration of gonadotropin stimulation. And if other hormonal therapy seems to be better than OC pill, then there should not be a very large use of OC pill in these patients. So I would end my topic by presenting the Cochrane database collective data published in 2010, which compared OC pills, progestogens, and estrogen pretreatment for ART, women undergoing ART. And the conclusion was that giving progestogen, here they gave progesterone for 2 weeks in the preceding cycle, in an agonist cycle was associated with more pregnancy rate, an odds ratio of 1.95. Secondly, more oocytes were retrieved in an estrogen pre-treated antagonist cycle. And number 3, with OC pre-treatment, no added benefit was observed, and it further increases the requirement of gonadotropin. So I would end my topic that we have 3 drugs. I think we need to try in our setups what really works, but I think definitely a high dose OC pill does not seem to be a very, very viable option when we are dealing with poor responders. Probably we need to do more studies comparing estrogen versus progesterone versus, OC pill, and try to get our own data results. Thank you very much.
I just would like to maybe add in or get the view of all our colleagues here. When you spoke about the OC pill and the AMH, there's enough data which is coming out now that when you look at this subgroup of population and you compare it over people who've never used the OC pill, their AMH levels are actually lower. We're not exactly sure what is the mechanism behind it. Is it at the HPO axis, or is it actually at the level of the ovaries? So I wonder, when you presented the bit
I believe that these women have already reached a stage of oocyte depletion. So here we are trying to get some response from already exhausted ovaries. Now probably what you're talking about is starting OC pills way in your good reproductive years, and maybe it might really prevent some ovarian exhaustion. But we know that the apoptosis and atresia will happen at its own speed no matter what you give.
Actually what they saw was that, on the contrary, the AMH was lower, but there was no difference in the AFC. So are we actually talking about a stage which is dependent? So the early stage we know is dependent on the gonadotrophins, whereas from the AFC onwards, so once they're 5 millimeters or above, they are dependent on the FSH. So there was a difference when we spoke in the subcategory of AMH versus the antral follicle count. It was quite an interesting study. So I don't know that if we're going to take this one study and we're going to effectively put it into our practice, and are we saying that there's something that we're still not sure of to add to what you said, that if the AMH is going down in this population, do we need to reflect on this?
I personally don't give. In fact, I did not get that one study that during one of our classes, we concluded that which OC pill should be given. Absolutely. And we concluded that it is Novolon, which contains less dose of estrogen and progesterone. And the duration, the stop period also is very, very undefined. It could be 3 days, it could be 5 days. So I think we really need much more larger, but probably
absolutely, because most, as you said, the heterogeneity in the study, some people had a washout period of 2 days, some had a washout period of 5 days, and some had a longer. And where the washout period was less, so where 2 days, they did much worse, versus the group that did at least 5 days or more. So if we are going to use, I would agree that maybe a 5 days minimum washout, and don't start too early. Thank you.